Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest here, capital city of Hungary. I hope everybody is having a good start to their weekend, staying healthy, staying strong. In this class, we are looking at the speaking section, specifically focusing on speaking part 2, the cue card, and working through an example to build fluent and connected language. This is a members chat class. Welcome members to the chat. Hi Bekjan. Hi Bisser. Hi Kyber, Sammy. Good to see many people. Hina, Nashat joining in on time. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. We will have an all chat class coming up in 90 minutes, which will be speaking part 3. And that speaking part 3 will be connected to this speaking part 2. So if you are here and watching, that's great because that will help you make a little bit more sense of the next class as well. While we wait for a few more members, these lessons are brought to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS help, please visit us there. And for the general version of the exam, visit us at gieltshelp.com, where we have lots and lots of materials for you. I'll just quickly show you the sites right now. This is the academic web portal here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join, then you get a My Student account, which of course you can use on your phone, tablet, computer. And there are practice exams, computer-based exams, over 100 hours of HD pre-recorded lessons, as well as a fully interactive course. And at gieltshelp.com, it's the same idea, just focusing on the general version of the exam, specifically different reading and writing parts to the course material. It's the green background, and you can click that big red button to join there. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Pavan, Nazir, Rajveer, Jainil. More of our members are now in the class. We'll get cracking in just a moment. If anybody has questions, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com, and I will do my utmost to answer your inquiries in due time. Today's class will be the last for this week, and then of course I will be hosting more classes starting on Wednesday from next week, and I'll put that schedule up on our YouTube community board shortly after this, after today's live classes, after the next class. And make sure to check there for the times and topics. And we'll get right into our speaking part 2 cue card. Students, again, a reminder, this is a speaking class, so make sure to speak and repeat as much as possible. Now, I saw that many of you are using the free speaking student speaking chat on the website, and that's fantastic. I had a practice speaking interview session with Bekjan today, and I saw lots of other students there connecting with each other, so that was great. Keep using that to improve your language. That's fantastic. All right, everyone. So, step number 1. When the examiner tells you that now we will begin part 2, here's a cue card with some questions, some note paper and a pencil. You have 1 minute to look at the questions, think about your answers, take notes in the 1 minute if you wish. Your 1 minute begins now. You turn over the card in front of you, and this is what you see. You have 1 minute, that's 60 seconds. It's not a lot of time, but it's definitely enough time to think of some ideas and remember the steps and strategies necessary to maximize your score. So what do you do first, members? I know that a lot of you have now seen several of these classes, and you should be becoming accustomed to the steps, or it should be becoming a routine for you now about what to do. So what do? Kyber says, read the question carefully. Yeah, 2 times. You don't necessarily need to read all of the questions twice, although you likely will before you finish your little presentation in the 3 minutes. But definitely read the topic twice. And then absolutely you're right, Rajveer, identify what category you're talking about and the tense as well, certainly. So very good. So step number one is read the card carefully, paying a special attention to the topic statement. Within this step, identify the category that you will discuss and the tense. So let's do that. Okay, we'll read it carefully and take note of those points. So read, speak with me. Okay, if you're reading, read aloud. If you're repeating me, repeat me aloud. So part two, talk about a time you did volunteer work. You should say, when was it? What did you do? Why did you decide to give your time for free? And how did they feel about, how did you feel about it? And would you do it again? Okay, so how did you? It's all about you. How did you feel about it? And would you do it again? All right, now you want to read this again. So talk about a time you did volunteer work. Pay really close attention to that. So Kyber says that we're talking about an event, and Rajveer says indeed it is an event, and we are going to be focusing on past and present perfect tense. Very good. Now, I know some of you are asking me about other strategies like past, present, and future. In this case, I wouldn't really talk about the future too much. I'd focus much more on the past, even kind of staying away from the present. So most of this answer definitely is situated in the past, okay? And absolutely it is an event. So very quickly, this is happening, all of this step one is happening within the first 10-15 seconds. So the topic is volunteering. My time, which is an event. Okay, the topic obviously decides the category, right? So it's an event, and most of this is in the past. So in the past, so using past, present perfect, and past perfect, right? So if you are dealing with a topic that takes place in the past, it is really good to use the past perfect, okay? Is everybody familiar with how to use the past perfect? So is everybody clear why we use the past perfect in the English language? Just a quick question there before we move on, a little grammar question. So why use the past perfect? Okay, why would we do that? Maksuda, if you've never done volunteering, you have to make it up. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. So you have to make it up, and I recommend doing volunteering at some point, Maksud. So Kyber says to show experience. Yes, partially that's true. Now that's relating to present perfect, Kyber. Beckjohn says, I have no idea why. Okay. All right, let me give you an example sentence, and then that might help you to figure this out. Definitely using past perfect will help you to get a better score because, of course, it's complex, higher level grammar, right? Rajveer says, yes, it's to point at a time in the past while explaining an activity that happened in the past. It's almost correct, Rajveer. So to talk about multiple actions that happened in the past and making clear which activity preceded the other. Okay. So I volunteered to do community cleanup in my neighborhood. as I had been surprised or astonished by the amount of garbage in the parks and on the roads in my local area. Let's just say that, okay? So here's a little help to give you an idea. So I volunteered to do community cleanup in my neighborhood as I had been astonished by the amount of garbage in the parks and on the roads in my local area. So when I say this, I'm saying volunteering this action first, and I'm saying this action, astonished, second, okay? But because I'm using the past perfect, okay, I am explaining or emphasizing to my listener that in time, this happened first, and this happened second, okay? So that's the reason we use present perfect. It's to take an event or an action that happened after we say the first action and to put it before. Hopefully I didn't confuse you there. Is everybody clear on that? So past perfect allows us to emphasize the order of events in time regardless of the order that I say them in. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, sometimes people think, well, okay, but logically that's clear as well. Yes, but not always. Okay, so in some cases, it's not absolutely clear for the listener just using logic for the order of events. So this helps to clear the order of events. Okay. And of course, we'll contract this in English as well. So we'd say, I'd been astonished. Okay. Now, if I really want to emphasize it, then I'll actually say the auxiliary verb had. All right. So it's good to practice that. Students, practice your past perfect. I've noticed that a lot of ESL students don't use enough past perfect, but it is a common part of the English language, especially at the higher academic levels. So make sure to pay attention to that. Okay. So it's organizing events in time. And of course, there's more to this. So the reason that a professional speaker would want to do that is because they want to emphasize volunteering more than being astonished, so they want to say this first, okay? That's another element of professional communication. Whatever you say earlier tends to carry more weight because of what's called a recency effect. So with humans, what we hear first often carries more weight than what we hear afterwards. So this lets us change the emphasis of our communication regardless of the organization in time or chronological order. Okay? All right. Bisser says, I organized a Christmas charity concert in my hometown for children who suffer from cancer, as I had been surprised that the government of my country does not pay for their recovery. And Bisser, that is a perfect second example. So very good. And follow in Bisser's footsteps, students. When you see me put something like that up there and you get a good idea, put it out there. Okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Bisser. That is absolutely a fantastic second example. It's very natural and considered high level. Okay, good. All right, so let's get back to point here. So we're using past, present perfect, past perfect. Of course, within those, you can always combine the progressive and the passive voices as well. So keep that in mind. The more dynamic your grammar, of course, the better score you're going to get. One of the main criteria of your mark for speaking and for writing is grammar range and accuracy, okay? So the more grammar range and accuracy you show, the better your band score. That will definitely have a big, big effect on that. All right, so when we discuss an event, and this should be automatic, so when you're practicing these strategies at home, this has to become automatic. When you're talking about an event, what are the key elements in discussing an event effectively for your listener? So when you think about events, what are some of the very important points that you have to really discuss. Okay, so Beckjan says the time of the event, absolutely. The people, Kyber, or we can also call that the attendees. Yes, the people who were at the event, right? That's right, Bisser, the reason for the event, right? So why did that event take place? Absolutely. Natalie, thinking of what, when, why, that's okay. So the W questions, it's a little bit more effective to actually think of the statements instead of the questions, okay? Kyber says the activities. Yeah, absolutely. So the activities that, in this case, happened at that event. Janelle, work is one type of activity. It could be entertainment as well, right? So activities could include work, could include entertainment also. And there's one more. Don't forget this, okay? So Rajveer says the result or the outcome. Sure, if there is one, it's possible. Okay, let's say there's two more then. So there's the outcome, and especially when you are part of that event, like in this case, this is the one that most people tend to forget. Yeah, so Kyber says your feelings or the importance. Yeah, so your experience. Let's call it your experience, okay? And you'll notice that questions do ask for this, okay? So don't forget that one, because oftentimes students forget that very last important point, the experience, right? And we can see that it's in the question, right? How did you feel about it, and would you do it again? So that experience, right, Hina, the impact that it had on you. Okay, it's another nice word for experience, is the impact that it had for you. All right, so as long as you cover these points within the topic using the correct tense, you're going to be on the right track for a very good score and having good accuracy. All right. Karen Veer, your contribution would probably come underneath activities as well. Okay. All right. Good. So now we have the topic. The controlling idea, of course, is volunteer work that you did. It's all of the other questions. So what's our next step? We've come this far. We've taken about, let's say, 15, 20 seconds of our 60 seconds. We have 40 seconds remaining, maybe a little bit more if we're really quick on those first few important points. And we'll break it into a step 2 here. So what would be the next one? So Beckjan says, okay, quickly come up with 2 or 3 ideas, okay? So think of 2 to 3 good ideas and visualize them. Choose the one that is unique and easy to discuss. Okay. Now, there was a really good question, I think, by Maksud earlier. Maksud said, well, what if I've never done volunteering? So, like, what do I do here, right? All right, well, that's fine. And an important point that I discussed in a lesson earlier today is that sometimes it's actually easier to come up with an imagined situation than to try to think back of a real situation where you actually did volunteer work. So sometimes using your imagination might actually put you into a better position, into an easier conversation than trying to recall and explain some actual activity that you did in this case, right? So what you really need to do is think of, so when I say unique, I don't mean it has to be something strange that nobody knows about. It just has to be original. I think maybe the word original is a little bit better than unique. So I'll replace it with original. And what you want to do is think of the 3 most common ways that people volunteer. Okay? So think about the most common ones that you see in movies, that you read about, that you hear your friends or family talking about, and just start from that, okay? So don't try to get too fancy, all right? So Kyber says helping refugees is okay. You can, yeah, sure, refugees. Okay, let's do refugees. I was going to say immigrants, Kyber, but refugees, sure. Anybody know the difference between a refugee and an immigrant? Helping refugees learn the local language. Okay, yeah, so that one would be learning, so volunteering to teach, right? That would be one of the common ones, and then you're being more specific, Kyber, which is great. So volunteering to teach, right? That's one. Okay. All right, Rajveer says helping patients at hospitals. Okay, so helping terminally ill patients at a hospital. Okay. All right, so good. Rajveer, of course, once you have the idea, try to take it one step further. So maybe think about a specific group of patients, right? Like children, pediatrics, or maybe people suffering from cancer, something like that. So being more specific, right? So terminally ill patients as hospitals, volunteering health, right? So that would be that one as well. All right. Yeah, so the difference, I can see some of you are thinking, what are the difference? So refugees are people who leave their country because of some, or escape their country because of some kind of political or civil unrest. Okay, refugee escapes their home country because of political or religious unrest, danger. And an immigrant or an emigrant, if when they're leaving their country, leaves their country by choice for different or better opportunity. Yeah, so it's two very different groups of people. Okay, good. I'm happy that many of you are aware of that. Okay, so going back to our possible choices here. So helping refugees learn a local language, that's volunteering to teach. Helping terminally ill patients, terminally ill meaning that they have an illness which cannot be cured. It's life-threatening. It's a mortal illness. So that would be volunteering health. That would be the same thing, Hina, for assisting disabled children, right? So volunteering health. Okay, and Sammy says cleaning up the beach, okay? Cleaning up an oil spill at the local beach. So that would be volunteering environment. Okay. So going back to, I think it was Maksud that asked the question about, well, what if I never volunteered? So there, Maksud, what you want to do is practice very quick visualization. Think about some of these main ways that people volunteer their time. There are definitely a few more, by the way. I'm sure you could come up with 2 or 3 more. These are okay for now. So volunteering to teach, volunteering health, volunteering the environment. And then as soon as you think about those, then kind of think of a couple of specific examples that you can use. Maybe drawing on local or current situations like the COVID-19, where obviously there are a lot of people in need of help, maybe volunteering your time to deliver food to the elderly or people with less money who can't pay for food delivery services, and maybe they're older, okay? All right, so some good answers there. One more that I'll put up. Jaineel is saying distributing food water, and clothes to homeless. Okay, and again, so what would that be under? Okay, let's see who's really paying attention here. So distributing food, water, and clothes to the homeless. Which one of these would that fall under? Teaching, health, or the environment? What would be that? What would you attribute that to? Okay, Pooja, stowing some masks, for sure that would be health, right? Okay. Kyber, that would be environment, sweeping. Yeah, that would be health. It would be health, right? Because at the end of the day, you're helping homeless people stay healthy as much as possible by providing food, water, and clothing, right? So it's connected to our human health. Okay, all right, so let's stay with these for now. I think you can come up with lots of good ideas. See, once you get going, the ideas tend to flow. So let's go 1, 2, 3. Correction. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. So just vote on that, members, and then we'll pick out the one that most of you feel like it's a good one. We'll go with that, and then we'll get right into the actual speaking elements. There's only 4 here, Jaineel. I think your finger went a little bit over. Okay, it looks like a lot of people would like to go with number 4, distributing food, water, and clothes to the homeless. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think the one caveat with number 4, so we'll do number 4. I can see that that's definitely a popular vote. Although do keep in mind, members, that since all of you are voting for 4, I would be betting money that for this question in an official IELTS exam, a lot of people would choose that. So this would be a very popular answer. So it would be hard to sound original with number 4. Does everybody kind of get me on that? We'll do number 4 for today, and I'll challenge you to do one of the other ones kind of as a homework exercise. But it would definitely be, especially if you're making it up, it would definitely be a little bit more challenging to sound original with number 4. Okay? It's likely that a lot of students would come up with that same kind of idea. Okay? So we'll do number 4. That's what most of you said. So let's stick to our guns, as the expression goes. We'll stick to our guns. We'll go with number 4, distributing food, water, and clothing for the homeless. Okay, so number 4 it is. Okay, what do I do next? So what's my next step? Step 3, we'll call it this time. All right, and quickly, so remember your seconds are ticking. You have 1 minute. Yeah, that's right, Abhishek. So write usable notes. Okay, you jot down. The phrasal verb when we're writing a few points really quickly is jot down notes. Okay, you jot down notes. Jot down useful notes or usable notes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you don't want to write down something like volunteer to help the homeless. Obviously, you're going to say that, right? So you need something that's more useful. Okay, so this time what I'd like you to do is give me some notes, maximum 3 words. Okay, so give me some usable notes, at least 2 words, no more than 3 words. Let's focus on that. Okay, so I want you to keep these parameters in mind. Okay, so at least 2 words each, no more than 3 words each. Okay, and speed is of the essence here. Okay, so Kyber says help 100 people. Okay, all you need to do there, Kyber, to make it faster is 100 people. Okay, good. All right, Rejveer says Feb 2020. Good, I like the short form. Feb 2020. Good. Okay. All right. 6 hours a day. So 6 hours a day. Okay, you might follow that with something like 2 weeks. All right. Hina, distribute food. That's where you can be a little bit more creative. So distributing food, that's clear. You know that. That's not necessarily a usable note because you're going to say that. So instead of that, okay, always think about the next step. So let's take a moment here with Hina's suggestion because it's a good start, Hina, but we want to take that one step further. That's always your goal, right? Is that extra one step, extra one step. So distribute food. That's not usable because you know this, okay? Okay, so you're going to say that without the notes. You don't need the notes to remind you about that. So always what you want to do there, Hina, is take an extra step. Okay, now when you take that extra step, what you want to do is think, okay, what kind of food? So what food, right? So what kind of food are you distributing? I see lots of other suggestions there, but let's follow the logic here so you can really build some good language with good vocabulary. So what kind of food? Okay. Actually name the food that you're distributing. So I would say something like chicken soup. Okay, it's energy rich and vitamin rich. All right, loaf of bread. Sure, Pavan, absolutely. Okay, and notice right away, Pavan, wow, now you're using some nice vocabulary because loaf of bread. So for each homeless person, I would give a loaf of bread every second day. Okay, alek, sandwich, very good. What kind of sandwich, right? So add to that a little bit. Okay, tuna sandwich or chicken sandwich. Sammy, very good, boiled egg. Now you're coming up with usable notes. Okay, so boiled egg. Some kind of a sandwich here, cheese sandwich. Okay, good. Now don't overdo it. So it's enough to just have one. Okay, Dr. Krishna, potato sabzi, right? All right, so don't overdo it. Okay, remember you have 1 minute. You want to get to these other points as well. You just need maybe one or two types of foods and then you're good to go. All right. Sammy says bottled water. Okay, again, usable notes as much as possible. Okay. Clean undergarments and shirts. Undergarments is the very correct and clear, clean way of saying underwear, basically. Okay, undergarments. Undergarments is usable for women and for men, so it's underwear, bra, panties, boxers, shorts, that kind of stuff. Okay, so those kinds of clothing. All right, now, what you really want to be careful of when you're taking your notes, students, is don't get derailed. Okay. Don't get derailed and just start focusing on one concept, but make sure that you keep in mind all of the elements when talking about events. Okay? So remember that here we have time, attendees, reasons, activities, and the outcome. So you want to ideally go in the same order. So you want to take maybe one or two notes about the time, one or two notes about the attendees, one or two notes about the reason, activities, and the outcome. Okay, and you want to have it kind of in that same order so that you can find information, usable information in your notes very, very quickly. Okay, so don't get derailed on one point. Don't be like, oh, okay, this kind of food and that kind of food. Once you have one or two types of food, that's fine. Just go back to the other points as well. So give me some usable notes for the reasons, the outcomes. Okay, so whatever comes to mind right now. Again, something usable. Okay, Marina says, healthy people, was raining every day, chocolate bar, feeling warm and inviting. Yeah, okay, so sure, we'll take that. Okay, Rajveer says, reason is the COVID pandemic. Sure, it's possible. Kyber says gained experience. Sure. Maybe some of you are doing it for university application. It's not a selfish or not a selfless act, but definitely in some places and in Canada, it's very important to have volunteer work. So if some of you are planning to travel to Canada, Australia, and you're going to be looking for jobs there, I highly, highly recommend doing some volunteer work because that will be a huge advantage on your resume or CV. In many of these societies, volunteer work is not only favored, but even expected for certain job applications, okay? Yeah, so Rajveer says self-satisfaction. Okay, good. Mediha, welcome to the videos. Okay, good. Okay, Musafir says the target was to feed 500 people. Okay, so sure. All right, okay, so we get the idea. Now you're rolling, you're targeting all of those questions. Fantastic. You have about 5-10 seconds left in the 1 minute, roughly. So you want to make sure to do one more step. This is going to be step number 4 here for us, I believe. And it's very, very important. What do? Okay, so you've got a lot of good information. You're feeling confident that you don't need to repeat yourself. You're going to be able to expand, go into detail. But before the examiner asks you to start speaking, you must have your first sentence ready. That's right. The first sentence is really important, students, not just to maximize your 2-minute response time, but also to give you a rolling start. Okay? So have your first sentence ready, okay? Not just to sound fluent and maximize your response time, but also to align yourself specifically with the question and to give yourself a rolling start. Okay, like in the Indy 500 versus Formula 1 racing. Okay, and if you're familiar with the Indy 500 and Formula 1 car racing, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In the Indy 500, the cars actually start the race while moving, as we're in the Formula 1. They're at a start line and then they start off when the flag drops. So that's a big difference in the two types of races. So in the speaking, you want to be like the Indy 500. You want to have a rolling start. It leads to better performance, so that's the idea. So that's why you want that first sentence. Okay. All right. We'll come back to the notes again, Kyber. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. All right, so give me your first sentence. I'll go back to the notes now so that you can see those, okay? So here we go. All right, so give me your first sentence. Let's get that rolling start going. So when the examiner says, all right, your 1 minute preparation time is up, please begin speaking. Almost as soon as they finish that last syllable, the speaking, the ing, you're boom, out of the gates and you're off to a rolling start. So, first sentence, okay? Now, a good trick, of course, is not just to look at the notes, but also to go back and take a peek at the question to get that rolling start. The first topic sentence really helps you to do that, okay? All right, Bekjan, nice paraphrasing. I can see that already. Okay, so Bekjan says, the unpaid work which I did in February 2020 was distributing sustenance needs to homeless people in the city of Nur Sultan. Okay, that's what I was wondering about the spelling, Bekjan. Thank you. Kyber says, not so long ago, about 3 months back on February 20th, I helped to feed homeless people 3 times a day, once a week in Kabul, Serena Hotel. Okay, very good, Kyber. That's also a really nice specific start. Great. Okay, those are really nice rolling starts to your speaking. Pooja says, last February, humanity rose within me. Okay, Pooja, that's a little bit awkward. Make sure that you use only language that you're sure is correct. You would want to say something, Pooja, like last February, I decided to do some altruistic work, okay, or a sense of altruism awoke within me, Pooja. That's why it's so tricky. You want to be really careful with that. I'll write that for you, Pooja, so next time you remember it. Okay, so last February, a sense of altruism awoke within me. All right, tricky. So students, only use sentences and ideas, especially in the first step, that you are 100% sure of, okay? It's very important. All right. Pavan says, don't overcomplicate, Pavan. I volunteered by helping a lot of people who were devoid of food during the start of the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, that's good. So you're giving what you did and the reason for it right away, Pavan. That works as well. All right. Rajveer says, the time when I contributed by volunteering was in February 2020 when I had helped underprivileged people impacted by the COVID pandemic with distributing food, water, and clothing. Rajveer, I made a few corrections there. Go back and check that. It's at 43 minutes. Wow, time is flying. Guys, I didn't realize we were that far into the class, but it's a great start. Okay. Rajveer, good job on getting the past perfect in there. Of course I caught that, right? So when you use the past perfect, your examiner will catch it immediately, no question, okay? Especially because they don't hear it all that often. So they'll catch it. All right, so Abhishek says, the volunteer work, which I did last summer in February 2020 to help 100 people with food, water, distributing it 10 kilometers from my place with the help of other community members. Abhishek, that's not bad. Abhishek, pay attention to information mistakes. They'll catch you on that. It will cost you in your coherence score. February is considered wintertime, not summertime. You're 2 seasons away, okay? Be very careful with that. Examiners catch all of these, all right? We are trained to catch details. There are very few points that the examiner might miss. If you have 100 different points in your speaking with grammar, lexical resource, mistakes, they'll catch 95 of them. Okay, so be really careful, right? Maksud says, the amazing work which I did for free about a couple months ago in February was delivering food. You draw that back, Maksud, but it was a good start. Okay. All right. So I'll take any one of those and let's keep going now. All right. So now let's build some fluent speech. So volunteering is a verb, students. So you can use that as a verb. Okay. So first sentence, last February, I volunteered to distribute food to the needy in my local area with 100 other volunteers. As I had been moved by an advertisement I saw on TV about the increase in the number of homeless due to the COVID pandemic. And its effects on employment. Okay, sure. So here we go. Repeat after me, and then I'll go back to looking at what some of you wrote. Last February, I volunteered to distribute food to the needy in my local area with 100 other volunteers, as I had been moved by an advertisement I saw on TV about the increase in the number of homeless due to the COVID pandemic and its effects on employment. Sure. Okay. All right. Pooja says volunteering is a family tradition. It motivated me to stand up and dedicate my time during the COVID crisis to lend a helping hand to the poor in my locality. Very nice use of vocabulary, Pooja, locality. Okay. Madiha says, just before the pandemic struck, all I was able to travel to Africa and see the school children malnourished. It was a stomach churning sight, so I volunteered to distribute food and water. Okay. Bisser, I use the past perfect here. Okay. When you give the reason, right, just like I did at the beginning. Okay. All right. Keep going. So keep going. What would be a good sentence to follow with here? Give me the next sentence. Think about activity. Think about where. Okay, Rajveer says around 1,000 people lost their jobs due to the national-wide lockdown and people were in dire demand of sustenance needs. Okay, good. So you're giving some more detail here. Just be careful, Rajveer, not to get lost on the reason, right? The focus here is on the volunteer work that you did. It's okay to add one more sentence, but don't go too far down that rabbit hole. Okay? So about 1,000 people lost their jobs due to as a result of the lockdown. I already used due to. And they were in need of sustenance, specifically drinkable water, energy-rich food, and clothing. Okay, sure. All right. Again, students, remember the card, right? So Mediha, I see what you're writing, but it kind of seems to be going off topic here. Okay, so keep the card in mind and the questions in mind. These cards usually deal with you. Okay, so what did you do? Why did you decide to give your time for free? How did you feel about it? So you really have to keep focusing on that. Think about your day, okay? Visualize it. So picture yourself, you're volunteering. Okay, what do? Go step by step. There we go. Bisser, very nice. Bisser says we met at 8 a.m. in the morning. We bought produce and then we separated them into 30 bags. We started deliveries at 9 o'clock and we're finished at 11:30. That's exactly what I'm thinking about, Bisser. Very, very good. Remember, students, quantitative language, visual, sensory language. Your listener has to be able to imagine what is happening. So Sammy says the food was prepared by us in the backyard. We prepared boiled eggs, chicken sandwiches, and a bottle of water, separated them into bags. Very good, Sammy. That's exactly what we're looking for here. So me and the other workers met at our local community hall at 8 in the morning and prepared over 500 care packages within the first 2 hours, which included a boiled egg, a chicken sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of water, as well as some undergarments and clean t-shirts. Sure. We then each went on a designated route around the city and gave the package to those in need. Sure. Okay, so now you're fluent, right? This went on for about 2 weeks, and by the end of February, we had helped more than 10,000 people. Each workday ended around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. All right. So we're on a roll, and I can see that a lot of you are doing a fantastic job. Now, clearly, we're not done yet. So I still have missing information. This is where I want to check my notes. Okay, if I feel like I'm done. And of course, I will very quickly realize that I still have some good notes, which I hadn't used yet. As well, of course, from the questions, I'll realize that I hadn't answered the how did you feel about it and would you do it again? It would be very important to answer those elements as well. So what I'll challenge you to do is do that on your own. Let's read through what we have so far. Okay, I'll verbally finish it right now, and then later I'll finish it in writing as well and put it onto our community board. So before we wrap up this class, students, let's just do this together. So speak and repeat. Here we go. Last February, I volunteered to distribute food to the needy in my local area with 100 other volunteers, as I had been moved by an advertisement I saw on TV about the increase in the number of homeless due to the COVID pandemic and its effects on employment. About 1,000 people lost their jobs as a result of the lockdown, and they were in need of sustenance, specifically drinkable water, energy-rich food, and clothing. Me and the other workers met at our local community hall at 8 in the morning and prepared over 500 care packages within the first 2 hours, which included a boiled egg, a chicken sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of water, as well as some undergarments and clean t-shirts. We then each went on a designated route around the city and gave the packages to those in need. This went on for about 2 weeks, and by the end of February, we had helped more than 10,000 people. Each workday ended around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After I'd finished with this volunteer work, I felt extremely positive, and I had a huge sense of self-satisfaction. It was very rewarding to see the smiles on the faces of those people who had been suffering so much from this unprecedented and unexpected circumstance. I would definitely do something similar in the future, and I feel that this is one of the most rewarding types of work that I've ever done in my life. Okay, so that's how you could wrap that up. All right, students, again, I see lots of great writing there. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to go through each of those in detail, but I promise you that if you record your response in an MP3 format and send it to my email, I'll have a quick listen and then give you a little bit of a quick feedback and a point or score estimate. Now, of course, members, keep in mind that on the website, you can practice these for free in the student partner speaking part of the interactive web portal. So make sure to use that, okay? Thank you so much, everyone. Fantastic to see so many of you in the class. Lots of great work. Much love back at you, Kyber, and everyone else. Hopefully, I will see you in about 30 minutes for Speaking Part 3. And Speaking Part 3 will be, of course, questions related to this Part 2 cue card. Bye for now. See you shortly.